Okay, so this is gonna sound weird, but I think I may have figured out how to fix dating. Okay, not necessarily fix it, but fix the dating situation that we seem to be complaining about, where we're talking about how the dating market is full of shit nowadays. Like, I feel like I may know how we can actually fix it. And I do intend on telling you guys what it is that I think might be the actual fix for this entire thing. And it sounds so simple, yet at the same time just feels like it was something that should have been known since day one, but it's just been there sitting under our noses. And that's what I want to speak about, tell you the process, why I came up with it, and you can see whether I'm chatting a bunch of shit or I might actually have some sense in all of this. But before I do that, I first need to have some manners and at least start, in a more sensible way because, I was raised a little bit better than that. So I might as well start with an intro whereby I normally say, welcome to the Breaktime Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B. This is a shorter, less edity, no instrumentally version of the podcast where I give one topic, I talk about it, and I go raw. Okay, maybe raw isn't the nicest way to say it, but I basically just give my thoughts on it, and I'm very open, and it's supposed to be very simple, which is why there are no special edits and so much that's being done and no instrumentals in the background. Basically stuff that I talk about whenever I'm on break. But, that's basically the whole gist of it. And as a result of that, the episode is usually shorter, just as a by the way. But that said, now that I've given the pleasantries and, the fact that I'm doing a shorter episode and all, let's get back to what it was that I was talking about. Me possibly having a fix for the dating market or for dating in general. How can I actually fix stuff? Now, I'm going to start by talking about where all of this started. Now, while I was on TikTok about a day before I recorded this episode, I stumbled across this video where someone was busy doing this whole debate of who should love more in a relationship. And the guy decided to go all, philosophical or, so-and-so predicted blah, blah, blah. And they said blah, blah, and blah. And he spoke about how guys will go and they'll put in work to bag a babe, get into a relationship with them. But then something happens and you would expect that the work would stop. But now they have to put in the work to retain the babe and make the relationship still seem like a worth it thing. Now, I do want to play the clip, then I can get into my thoughts on it, because this was just the precursor. This was like the origin of some sort as to where it is I got my whole thought process on everything. So let me just let the clip play, then I can get into my thoughts on it. So without further ado...
Who should love more in a relationship, men or women? There is a researcher we call Robert Brefoss. He made an observation in the animal kingdom that is very interesting. The guy observed that in every relationship, it is the woman that actually determines whether a relationship will happen or not, whether the relationship will last long or not. Just remember, in an average relationship, it is the man that does the approaching, he's the one that asks the number, he's the one that does the texting, that does the calling, and the woman is the one deciding whether she's going to accept or not. Then he finally gets her. Something interesting happens. The man who spends months trying to get a woman now becomes scared of losing her. And I think that is where a lot of men get into trouble. You see, when you love somebody, you want to be around them, you want to see them happy, you care about them. But when you are scared of losing somebody, you start tolerating nonsense. You won't be able to tell the person the truth because you are scared the person will get angry and leave. You stop confronting problems and bad behaviors, and suddenly the relationship becomes a dynamic where it is one person struggling to keep the other, and the other person just sitting in the receiving end deciding whether to stay or not. That is not partnership. That is a pursuit that will never end, and that is not what a relationship is. This is the point where the woman needs to now step up. Just because you have more romantic options doesn't mean you have more meaningful options. 100 men wanting you doesn't mean 100 men want to build a life with you. Don't let that illusion of option make you relax and not commit towards building your relationship. If you're in a relationship with a man you claim you love, you have to choose him also. You can't build a lasting relationship around only one person's desire for it to work. So again, men or women, who should love who the most? I think you both should just love each other deeply. That way, even if the man buy more gifts than the woman, it doesn't really become an issue. Because why? The woman also commits to buying. She also puts in effort to surprise the man. So even if we come at the end of the month and look at the man bought 50 gifts and the woman bought 25, it doesn't matter, because those 25 she bought came from love, sacrifice, and commitment. So please, don't come for my head. This is the balance I want to give. Let me know what you want me to talk about next in my video. It's your boy Eli, and this is Infinite Greed.
Okay. So particularly interesting thoughts there. The whole bit about the researcher who was talking about how, women control this and that. That was an interesting one. I do feel like I have, thoughts that might be different as opposed to that. Granted, I am a man, so, maybe, just maybe, I may be biased in how I look at it. But, like, that said, I feel like the whole who loves more or who should love more discussion is something that I've covered a couple of times on this podcast over the years. So, like, this one was one of those ones where I looked at what was being discussed, and originally I was about to shut it down and be like, this is a bullshit discussion. Like, I've had the discussion before and there's nothing new there. But I decided to listen to the entire thing, and to be honest, in as much as I like the conclusion that the guy had on, both of you should love deeply, blah, 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 like, at the end of the day, I feel like it didn't really move the needle as much. Granted, it did move it in a positive direction. It's just that I felt like, to some degree, it still kind of did make me feel the same way about this entire discussion, which is, it is a bullshit discussion. Mainly because, and this is normally what I say every time people bring up this discussion, you can't quantify love. Like, people are always about who should love more, men or women, and people will say, the man should love more if it's a guy who's on the side of women or if it's women saying. But if it's guys who are on the side of guys are like, no, the woman should love more. And they'll always give their justifications on the entire thing. But the truth of it is, you can't quantify love. And as a result of that, most people run it by the assumption that is based off of how people express love to each other on a regular basis. So for the most part, it's mostly a bullshit metric because it's based off of assumptions that you can't really, really substantiate. But with that being said, I thought about it for a second, and this is actually a discussion that has kind of been eating at me for a bit ever since I did the previous episode. And I thought about it for a bit, and like, we talk about who should love more, men or women, but what if we change that discussion a little bit? Like, how about we decided to ask a different kind of question instead of that one? Because I feel like that one will always bring up a debate which you can't entirely win on either side if you're arguing it out with the opposite gender, not unless if you support them. So what if we instead stopped asking who loves more, men or women, and started asking a different question, which would be who should be wanting to date a lot more? And at that point, my mind opened up and I was looking at it from a completely different angle. And, I was trying to look at different, sides to the entire question. Should it be men or the women? And I'll be very honest, it was a very simple answer. I just concluded that men should want to date a lot more. But there's some explanation that I need to give around it so that it makes sense. Now, when you think about it, oftentimes people always talking about, who should love more, men or women. But what if we kept it equal and kept it 50-50? Do you think that would change the situation on the ground as far as the dating market is concerned and made men suddenly want to start dating? Because when you think about it, a lot of the dating and relationship bits at the initial stage are usually initiated by the man. And as such, it would probably mean that the chances of having such a thing would probably increase if you include the man. And the reason why I say that the man is usually the most impactful at the initial stages of the relationship, or should I say dating, is because when you look at it, for the most part, the person that's going to approach the other side is usually going to be the man. Also, the expression of desire to date and or be in a relationship with the opposite sex is mostly, if not regularly, initiated by the man. Also, when you think about it, and I know some people might not like it, but I haven't found enough to refute this, women hold the keys to sex, but men hold the keys to the relationship. So, for the most part, there's a lot of that kind of means that men hold a lot of the power of whether you guys are getting into a relationship or not. Although, granted, I could be wrong about that one. So, when you think about it, the first major decision, the first major question or initiation when it comes to dating and relationships that is concerned is usually going to have to be initiated by the man, if not mostly by men. So when you look at it, at the end of the day, for most of these people, or should I say for most women, to actually leave the dating market, and by leaving the dating market, I mean getting into something serious with someone else, aka a relationship, they would more often than not require that a man makes the initiation to actually start dating or be in a serious relationship with them. And as such, that is how I came down to the conclusion that for us to solve the big problem that is the dating market, men need to want to date a lot more than women, or at the very least, way more than they currently want to right now. And when you think about it like that, it kind of compacts it pretty well. But now the next question that comes is, how do we make men want to date a lot more than women do? Well, truth of it is, it's not like there's a complicated answer to this. It's actually quite simple. We need to make dating just look like a better alternative for men, as opposed to what the other side of that is. Because when you think about it, for the most part, it's not like you'll find your typical human being looking at a better alternative to something that they want, or to something, and they suddenly choose something that's not the better alternative, not unless if they have an emotional attachment or it just doesn't seem feasible. So for the most part, when I look at it, the best way that we can actually fix this is to just make dating look like a much better alternative. Now, how to do that is the question that's a lot more complicated, because you can now start to push it through social media and different forms of media that getting into a relationship and just having one girlfriend is a great thing as opposed to hoeing around, which I do think some people may have tried to do, but there is definitely quite a lot more work into it. It could be, more and more women saying that they won't sleep with a guy not unless if they're in a relationship. Like, there's a couple of different ways that people can try to push this out. But the truth of it is, not unless if we can create a situation where dating looks like a much better alternative as opposed to a guy staying single and fucking around the way he would like, for the most part, a lot of guys may not see it as a better alternative up until it gets to a point where it might be very hard for them to get it, and they may want some version of companionship, or they just get to a point where they actually feel like they don't really need any of the baggage that may come with being in a relationship. So to kind of conclude all of this that I've been trying to say, let me just finish by saying that the best way to get around the issue of dating is to go through the men. That is what I am trying to say. Like, that's quite literally it. We can have the singles events, we can try to make some sort of appeal here and there, and we can try to do some clever marketing, but at the end of the day, if we're not trying to target the men, then there's going to be a lot more single people crying about how the dating market is shit and how they can't secure a person, while there's most likely tons of guys that are out there that just aren't really all that interested in dating, yet they'd have made for very good potential partners. Although, then again, I could be wrong about this and I could be chatting a bunch of shit. So, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG, it is at the breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the breaktime podcast. And on X, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.